And we're back. We're live. It is the Ascend Business Show. We got a good one for you today. This is about fast learning, why this is a critical factor for you and your company to adopt fast learning if you want to speed up your business, scale, and really get to the bottom of what's going on and why it's not working. We're going to share a ton of information with you today. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 60.
Power to pay.
Works every time, man. I'm pumped.
I don't know where you found that clip, but it's working for me.
Yeah, it's good. I had to do some digging, man, to find some live video of Bill speaking. Good to have you back, everybody. We are so excited to share with you some learnings today that I think you'll really appreciate. You're going to resonate with, and give you some really big ahas for you and your company. Bill, we've really been in the weeds like the last 2 weeks with numerous different organizations, fast companies, startup digital tech companies, scaling mid-market companies. And we're hearing and seeing some patterns around what's working with their sales force and their sales enablement strategies and their tech. And also some things that are like, ooh, that's interesting. I don't know if I would do that ongoing, and we have some thoughts today to share.
No, I think it's a great topic, James. And I just hope our audience knows that, we're always going to kind of turn back and reflect what we're learning. And I think I'm encouraged because organizations are keen on growth, are keen on productivity and speed, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Many are kind of feeling the pressure of closing out the year, but also they're realists in knowing that we are at November 11th. And before you know it, our toes are touching down in January. I'm always amazing of the time compression or the time acceleration. I feel like we go into like some capsule from now until January. And you look up, you look down, you got the high holidays, and boom, you're in January. And everyone's kind of looking like, we're here, we made it. I guess now we should go, because everything we talked about we wanted to do last year, it's this year now. And I guess we have to execute. So a lot of grand aspirations out there. I think I look forward to talking about today in the spirit of what's working and maybe where clients might need to rethink and readjust go-to-market strategy or the tech that they're using, because quote unquote speed or scale doesn't always mean the same thing. And I know that, and we've talked a lot about that. So I can't wait to jump in. So
yeah,
I'll follow and I'll accent.
No, that's cool. So if you've been watching our show, you know our background. And if you don't know our show or our background, this is the first time you've seen us, then I'm going to give you a quick minute on what we're about at Ascend Business here. So, Bill and I have B2B business backgrounds. We both were in large organizations that were selling, that were carrying in the bag, and we did it all, right? We did the traditional B2B sales process, right? Which is really a lot of everything. You're doing impromptu coffee meetings. You're doing the walk-ins to their office and in the hallway. You're going to networking events, associations. You're cold calling. You're emailing. You're doing everything, right? To get the meetings, to grow your pipeline, to hit your metrics and your quota, all that stuff, right? We get it. We've been there. We've done that. It's still happening today. What Bill and I are interested in to help you with whether you're the sales executive that's running the organization for your teams, if you're a high performer producer, or you're really in a founder role, starting up something that is needing to grow quickly, all apply, because the key in today's digital marketplace is speed. And there's too much to do all the time. There's too much going on. And as salespeople, we are interested in practical, easy tools and methods that will help your people achieve what you want, which is what you want: to grow more sales, you want to market better, you want your market to know who you are, and you want to build that stickiness, with your market share, so that you're building a wedge and you're growing your business, right? So that's really kind of the umbrella to a lot of our discussions here at Ascend Business Show. And today, we really want to kind of open the curtain up on things that we've learned, some things that we've learned from organizations that just fit what I talked about, and to give some insight into, here's definitely what's working in digital business today for sales and marketing, and here's some things that to kind of have a caution flag on and to think about more. Bill, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think about an example. We had some learning from last week about an organization that's using one of the sales enablement platforms out there. They're very heavily invested in email, I would say email marketing, email for prospecting, which is still a viable tool, and people still use email. The manner in which, though, you receive it, because we're all receiving email most often on a mobile device, you really have only 3 to 4, maybe 5 lines, to communicate what's happening, and what your takeaway typically is: who's sending me this email, what's the title, and what are the first 2 lines of the email. I'm making decisions in a nanosecond on whether I want to open this or not, because we all get too much email, and we always think that we can control it and manage our inbox, which I think that's an ongoing thing. So I think the learning in that is, when you try to bring tactics and a transactional approach, mechanized approach to outbound communication, where in this, if anything we've learned over the last 18 months, we are now in the era, remote selling, digital relationship building. We are in the era of authenticity and genuineness. So if you had to think about it, a lot of these automated either email programs or productivity programs are the antithesis of that. Did I say that right?
Antithesis. We got it. We're good.
Of that, they run across the grain of that, right? So, I use that with good caution. And salespeople this is what I've also seen too, and this is to no fault of anyone's own. 53 to 58% of all salespeople were working externally before the pandemic hit. We're prone to action. We're prone to activity. We're kinesthetic beings. We like the car to the plane, to the train, to the meeting, and to the lunch and back. We're in motion. We're making things happen. We're doing that. And then now we're relegated to some keystrokes and a couple video appearances and a cadence with the help of some technology. And is that helping me build relationships and helping me win? So I guess the learning is that we're trying to help organizations look at various swaths and talent bands of their organization to make sure that you don't take your entire go-to-market approach and try to mechanize it. Because then that's going to exhaust your salespeople, because they now have to follow up.
Yeah,
you can have the greatest mechanism in the world for outbound emails, but you still have to follow up. You still have to reply and check, and particularly if you prioritize and segmented your audience. So that's some caution that I throw out there, because quality still sells. And if you want to get to this authenticity and genuineness and reflect everything we've talked about for the last year in terms of selling and trading upon your business acumen, your issue fluency, and your own credibility that now people are seeing because of what you've done to your social profile out in the ethosphere. So that kind of there's a little bit of incongruency there that I would like to see that gap closed if I could tell the sales community to do it. But we also understand, hey, publicly traded companies, big companies, right? It's a numbers game, yes, but I think that needs to be a component of a go-to-market strategy and not rely too heavily on it. Period. That's what I was trying to say.
No, it's cool. I want to hang here for a second, and if you have some questions, guys, as you're watching this about I guess your tactical approach to your cadence or your go-to-market, prospecting process, we want to hear it. Put it in the comments, and we'll talk with you here on the show today. But this is a stat. 65% of businesses say generating traffic and leads is their biggest marketing challenge, and I think that plays really well into what we're saying here. Is we're noticing a lot of companies we're speaking with are very heavy on email, and they're blasting email. And like you said, Bill, it's very mechanical. There isn't necessarily a lot of customization to it or tailoredness to it to their audience per se. And we all know in general the rates on email opens is extremely low, clicks even lower. So one trick, I guess one success hack for that approach, if you don't do this, I would start doing this, is notice your own consumer behavior, right? Like there was an email that I got today that I probably would have deleted, but what caught my eye was the subject headline was just very different in the way they structured it. That caught my attention to be like, I'm curious, let's open this. And then even in the email format itself, it was very different than I'm used to seeing, where it was very short. And then there was two options. And there was two choices basically. Each one was a link. And I clicked on it and I'm like, holy smokes. I just clicked on this thing and I converted for them a click into their landing page. And so I screenshotted everything because I'm like, I got to steal this, or I got to think about using this for me. But copy success, right? If you find yourself opening things, catch yourself, ask yourself why, and ask yourself if you're doing the same thing for you. And that's one little trick to email marketing, because we all delete almost 95, 99% of our emails. I do it every day. So that, when you see something like that work, make sure you note that down.
Well, you also have to understand who you're trying to reach.
Right.
I know if, some of the senior decision makers we work with, they're not fretting over their email in terms of, oh my gosh, I saw a really interesting email from this such and such software company. I hope I have the time to open that. I'm going to, maybe I should get out of this meeting and go open that email. We know that's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So if, you use some of these programs, like who really has the time, who is opening those emails? Typically it's a more of a functional role in the organization, not a leadership role.
Right.
So just be ready for that. Who's actually going to do that and who has time to really explore. And then I would say, not to discredit email, is your messaging has got to be watertight and you got to bring value fast.
Yep.
And part of that I would say is you have to articulate why clients consciously and cognitively chose to work with you and why they continue to stay with you and utilize your relationship and your services. And it's amazing how much messaging lacks that, because it goes back to trying to either identify a problem, be really cute to talk about it, or it's still features and functions.
I think we're right on target here, because what we have seen in the last 2 weeks with several different companies that we've talked with and learned about, there's definitely a clear, I'd almost say, chasm in sales operations of organization A versus B. A being they have all these pieces of technology, they're building their cadence, and it's kind of a step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I just do the steps and check them off, I'm doing my job and I'm doing it right. But it's very functional. So like if I'm sending out a bunch of emails, yep, that step's done. And then I'm going to send them an email about booking a demo. That step's done. And then when I get on the demo, I'm going to talk to them about product and our cool tech. That step's done. But what we're saying is that doesn't convert. There's a huge attrition issue with holding sales meetings, sales demos, because of that approach. And what's lacking from that we talk about a lot on this show is is viewing that differently. In my own opinion, what I'm sharing here with you, Bill, is if we're getting attention from an email, that's noteworthy. But the attention then needs to be converted into a value message that starts the right conversation. And so it goes from functional to value creation, value messaging, starting the right conversation so that the buyer almost then leads it versus us leading it. How about that for a segue?
That's a great segue. So, let's do some word association. I say the word demo. What do you think?
I hear tech demo, 15, 20 minutes. It's all about the product features and that's it.
Yeah.
And then you want to buy,
A couple of the other associations I have seen and heard are, okay, I am going into this skeptically, and I'm going to have my hat and my hair blown back.
Right. It's going to have to be amazing for me to do something.
Right. I've got this unarticulated expectation. I'm looking for something I haven't seen yet. And that's not always realistic.
Right.
I think demo is, passive, arms folded. Okay, what do you got? Show me. Versus, to me, a demo should be, something very aligned. And it's very easy to say, hey, you always can default to third party, right? What clients have valued from a review of our system around whether it's, Ascend capabilities, right? Our CRM, our app, or Ascend AI. Here's what they initially were interested in and what they were really interested to see and find out. How does that resonate with where your organization is? And they're always going to say, oh, yep, I like that, but let's add this one other thing. Or, oh, that sounds good. Great. Why is that important? You've already built engagement. And the final last words, or the words I love to hear any salesperson say, James, Bill, client, prospect, based on what you shared with me, I came prepared today to talk a little bit about Salesforce automation, sales enablement, a new way to think about how to leverage this wonderful technology of AI to enhance really quality level prospecting at scale. And it's possible. I look forward to today.
Yeah.
It's all based on a predicate. What you said about your last words, our last conversation, based on what you shared with me. It's all contextual. And when you land that plane, or that's where you start the runway, you're golden.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really important to get that, because, if you don't land the plane there and you're outside of the landing zone, then anything you say really isn't going to stick or hold weight to them, because we're not dealing with the issue. Right. I shared this with a founder tech company last week. It said, you could have the greatest product in the world and it's really cool and how you can help somebody. But if they don't see the aha of, whoa, this is what it can do for me, and here's why I don't have this now moment, that use case moment, that's like, this would make a huge difference for us. That's all they care about, And so in order to get there, there's a couple different ways to do it. But Bill, I love your 4-step process on how to position your messaging. We lost Bill. We'll get back to him. But there's a 4-step process to really position your messaging properly. And that's going to allow to really sit in and have the right conversation with your buyer. So we're going to go through that in a second. See it. Oh, we're back. There we go.
Modern technology.
But
we're talking about the 4-step value proposition format, right?
Yeah.
It's really easy, and I pose it as 4 questions. And let me give our audience the question. First question is, or it could be a statement, who you work with and why. So that's number 1. Number 2 is what problems you solve and what needs you address. That's number 2. Number 3 is the impact that you're having. And again, being mindful of if you're in financial services, you can't really speak about performance or allude to performance or opinion, but you can kind of talk about the impact that you're having. And also that third question is a nod to why clients value your involvement in their business. That's got to be there. So that's number 3. And I'm going to repeat these in a second. And the fourth is some window into your secret sauce in terms of how you're getting that done. So for James and I, yes, we've got a curated tech stack of technology that we went to the ends of the earth to test, hammer upon, and then use ourselves. And now, we offer that, but we also bring, 10 to 15 to 20 years of sales experience in addition to a technical acumen to really apply that to go-to-market strategies and business issues. That's a little bit of our secret sauce. So you can kind of go there because you want to kind of close the loop on that and eliminate any kind of disbelief or cynicism that, hey, we've got a special process, or hey, we've been able to attract the right talent that has unique skills to deliver our value proposition, and you're going to meet some of those. So 4 questions. First one's really a statement: who you are and who you work with. 2, the problems you solve and the needs that you're addressing. 3, the impact that you're having, and a window into why clients either chose you or still continue to have you around. And a 4th, a nod to your secret sauce.
You know what that is right there? That's a story. It's a format for a perfect storytelling window to share how you help your business community. And any expert, VC coach or business executive that's running successful companies, that I've heard this several times just in the last few weeks. They want a great story. They want a story that resonates. They want that makes sense for them, that they can vicariously live in. And if your story is right, like this format really paves the way to create the right one, then this is really the go-to that you got to use all the time when you're having these conversations with people. And you're going to hear feedback from this, right? Because it's either going to land or it's not. If done correctly and you're focused on the right audience and you've done your homework, it should land most, if not all of the time. And it should lower the guard of your person you're speaking with to really want to lean in and be like, wow, tell me more. Or I want to tell you about what's going on here and see how this applies to this. Like, they're interested, right? Because you're focused on them. You're focused on their business issues and their problems. And you're really in the weeds with them on, that they've been trying to figure this out. They've been trying to perfect and do different things to solve these issues. It's not like it just can't happen yesterday. It's been ongoing for most likely weeks or months, if not years. So there's a ton of context that having that story frame allows all that to come out, have a really meaningful discussion around, very attractive pathways for fixing the issue.
And I think I remember, I'll go back, gosh, I'm dating myself now, maybe 15 or 20 years ago when storytelling was really important. I was like, gosh, I'm really not that good at it. Then I realized why. It's like, if you're, I think there's an innate fear that you have to tap into that, well, I'm going to tell a story, but I have no idea if it's going to resonate or be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can use this 4-step framework, now you have context.
Yeah.
You can't just start telling a story. It's got to be, and I look at it as, it's a business issue. It's a pebble in your, it's introducing a hot topic or a problem. That's a pebble in the shoe or an aspiration not yet met for an organization that's looking to get to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
Or you want to, there might be a chance to educate. So you got to think about what do you want your messaging to do? Typically messages do 3 things. They inform, they persuade, or they provide comfort. And here's what I mean by comfort. You're asking the right questions. You're thinking about the right things. You're in a stage that is common, right? Sometimes you have to allay any fears, and to get a client organization to open up about what's not quite right is have to let them know, hey, listen, wherever you are in this gestation period, startup or, shifting platforms or, hiring new people, going into different verticals, this kind of fuzz factor neutral zone is very common. And then you could now tell the story about now how other organizations have worked through it, what their initial steps were, what they really did to think about strategy that got them out of the neutral zone into that better place.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the story kind of kicks in. Don't try to write, from paragraph one and tell a story or a narrative that you think is going to work. It's all based on a business problem, a goal not yet met, or a pebble in their shoe they need to really kind of get out, and a problem that has to go away. So,
well, and your story fits in somewhere with their story because they have one too, and so when you frame it the right way like this, it allows them to think about their journey as well and how they even got to where they are, and there's a reason why you guys are meeting today. It's when you share stories, the why of why we're meeting today and the reasons we got there makes a lot more sense.
Some of that why is, well, gosh, you know what? There's 300 to 400 million contacts on LinkedIn. Why aren't we doing any business on LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's one. Why have I not been successful? We can chronicle personally and professionally why we haven't until recently been able to connect on LinkedIn. And it's not all salespeople's fault.
Right.
Well, the platform is the platform, and it has certain limitations. It does what it does. It's up to us to think at how we best leverage it and make it work for us and have our own transformation. Same thing with a platform like Sales Navigator. Mm-hmm. It's not a linear start here and there platform. It's got some good technology that you can harness and leverage. But then you still have to put shoulder against the wheel to use it, to make it work.
Yeah.
So
no, it's key. And so, I mean, I guess some of the big takeaways we've seen, with this in mind is, if you're a founder that some cool tech that you're launching and you're trying to scale, we found a lot of founders are really stuck in the perfection mode. They want to tweak the product before they go too hard on sales. And the reality though is that there's actually not enough revenue creation happening to keep you in business long enough to do that. We'd rather you, in our opinion, just use your best use cases and go talk to your market, start these conversations like we're saying here, tell your story, let's hear their story, find the common ground, and see how you can develop a new one together. That's got to be the focus for you. And or if there's just too many things going on, and in most cases for all of us we are zoomed out, maxed out, calendared out, doing 4, 5, 7, 10 different hats and jobs, then there's got to be some way to create more speed, more efficiency, and more leverage through better sales enablement tech, automation, sequencing, and that's something that we passionately care about, obviously, here at Ascend. But that's got to be a conversation and a pathway that has to be better laid out for your people, so that you can grow the company. You can create traction in the marketplace. You can scale, and so there's a lot of things to look at there. And it's just been fascinating because I think what we've seen in the last few weeks is some really cool tech that can do some nice things. But I can also see where tech can also slow you down and create just as much administrative burden and inefficiencies as you had before. And so there's got to be some strategy and value selling to your approach with your sales and marketing. And I think that's probably one of the biggest reaffirmations I got out of the last few weeks with all of our conversations is strategy and value selling are here to stay. They're still a vital part of your whole playbook, and you have to use that in tandem with your tech.
Well, I think about, I might have posted this earlier this week, what, Procter & Gamble is doing around learning, and they've equated learning with speed. Having, worked there many, many years ago, the business mission for you as an employee was, you need to get your job done, but you also need to, if you're a solo practitioner, a sole, your role as an individual contributor, it's your job to go get your own learning. We're going to provide it, but you need to go get it. As a sales leader or any type of leader in the organization, you have to do two things: make your number, develop your people. The impact of learning now in the era of digital sales and marketing is learning is speed. Now think about it, right? All these platforms we've been speaking of that are out there that are enabling scale or speed or more, they have to be learned. And one of the things that I worry about, having seen some of these other platforms that we don't use, but other our clients have chosen to, is that if you don't nail the learning piece and the sales organization doesn't fully understand how it works intimately, they're going to be playing catch up, and then they're going to get frustrated and not use it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Learning is speed, meaning, what's trending used to be a weekly dynamic. Then it was a daily dynamic. Now it's hourly, and then it's annoyingly, minute by minute. So, the learning function has to keep up, particularly if you're going to be trading on insights and your issue fluency, then you need to be learned and know how you learn and create in your cadence of time throughout the day. You got to contribute at least 15 minutes to learning, whether that's forking over the bucks for the Wall Street Journal subscription, or figuring out, some Google alerts for the companies that you're tracking or that you work with. Somehow, some way, you've got to get your learning in, because at some point, the compass is going to bring you back to the point where that context is going to come up in a conversation. What you've learned, what you've read.
Totally.
And I quote books I read last month, and I quote books I read 10 years ago. I think about Jeff Tooley wrote a book called The Prime Solution.
Mm-hmm.
Read the whole book, but third page in the first chapter is, if what you're selling, if the culture of what you're selling into can't execute your solution, you will fail.
That's right.
We see it all the time.
That's right.
So that's where the learning kind of comes in, and that's where salespeople can add some value, and that's not going to come across in an email.
I agree. And we will always make the argument here, and we always want to be challenged too. And we're open to learning. I mean, we're sharing with you learning now, but this is really important, is to always have these conversations. And these are actually really the best conversations I think we consistently have, is when we can open a conversation with what we're learning and just sharing. It opens the doors to say, wow, this is really cool. They want to share too. They want to share what they're learning. They want to share what's going on with them. And so continuing to even share, you think it's a vulnerable thing. It's not. It's a strength thing. It's showing that you're taking action. You're a practitioner. You're doing things in the marketplace. You're talking to folks. You're learning about things that matter, that anyone would want to learn from if they want to advance their company. So share your learnings as you get them, which we're doing here, and use these in your sales messaging with your ideal audience, because they're going to want to hear about it. I share learnings basically every day with my different audiences that I talk to. Some here on LinkedIn. I share some learnings on Facebook. I share some learnings on Instagram, and some emails. If I have a conversation with a client that wasn't on the agenda, but I share new learnings anyways, because I care about adding value to their business. And they're like, this is amazing, so, and it's different. Is your competition doing this? Most likely no. So there's another strategy for differentiation. Just share your learnings, and you're now you're more valuable, So, but that's the use case of social media selling right there. Is if you want to social sell, this is your point of view. This is what we keep coming back to. It's just sharing your story, sharing your point of view. And people can identify with that. People can sit in your story because that's relatable, versus just talk about, products and features and static headlines. It doesn't go as far.
And the two value creation shifts, I think, as part of this, James, that I'd love our audience to make if they haven't made it already, is that we're moving away from showing to sharing, particularly in demos, right? Showing to sharing, and it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing means we've curated something, I've created something. This is a little unique. This is a little different, and this is custom tailored. Showing to sharing. Showing means you're pitching, telling, presenting, clicking through slides.
Well, even like in a demo, right? Like a sales tech demo, you know, it'd be way more valuable and more credible and more interesting to me in a demo is if the salesperson would say, yeah, here's all of our tech, but one, here's from what I learned about you, you know, here are some use cases of it that I think would be the biggest advantage for you right now, and show that and get validation.
Mhm.
One, but also share, hey, here's where we see people fall short using this. And here's some of the challenges that we want to prevent if you were to use it. And here's why. Here's, you know, kind of some, we're going to show you everything here. You know, we have clients, you know, and some of them use it well, some of them don't. Here's some pitfalls that we want to avoid with this. Therefore, here's some success factors for you if you want this to work well for you. Like if you don't do these things, then don't expect the results that we're talking about, right? Versus just say, buy my stuff. But let's take it a step further, because we know execution is at the heart of this in anything in sales. You got to execute. So, you know, being real, you know, with that, I hold a lot of equity with that when someone does that to me and says that.
Yeah, so that first shift, right, the value creation shift is from showing to sharing. The second one is moving away from what we've got, our thing, to what we're seeing. It creates a different distinction. I'm going to tell a quick story in the spirit of stories. I'm at a very large financial services company in Newark, New Jersey. We got a meeting with a very senior executive, one of the top floors. You could see it from New York City. Big old meeting, big old building, old school. Get the meeting, greet the executive assistant, and greet my client, gives me the hearty bear hug and handshake, and we exchanged pleasantries and looked at all his beautiful family and the pictures on the credenza. Motions me to sit down across the mahogany table. He gets his couch, I get my couch, and then I get it. So, Bill, what do you got? Just as he says the of what do you got, I feel this presence over my shoulder. And I said, oh my gosh, it's happening. I'm getting the hook. The executive assistant had cracked the door, was over my shoulder, looking to see if the senior executive wanted to be rescued out of this meeting. And just like that, I said, I'll just say his name was Ed. Ed, it's not what I've got. It's what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing these three things. The door clicked shut, and I talked for another hour. I was getting the hook. If I started whipping out my brochure and said, I'm going to talk to you about the blank blank training program, we're going to train your people. It was contextual.
Mm-hmm.
And we left the conversation. Well, what do you think we should do about it? And I said, here's what I think you should do about it. It was write it up. Can you come back and talk to my team? Yes. So what's the lesson in that? I went from showing to sharing, and I moved away from my thing, my stuff, to what I was seeing. And
I'm taking notes, guys. This is great, right?
You know,
I learn from him every day.
That's, why we've been telling the audience, right? This is what we mean by your business acumen. This is what we mean by your issue fluency. This is why our mission is to get you all to equal business stature. You're never going to be, if you're not a CFO, you might never be one. If you're not a chief operations officer, you don't have to go to chief operations officer school. You don't have to be that, but you can be their ears and their eyes and thinking partners, and understand their remit and what they have to deliver to their organization, and help them do it fluidly and flexibly.
Yeah.
More efficiently.
It's perfect.
You can do it.
You can do it. So as always, we want to end the show with, thanks for, if you're watching and you're still watching this, thank you. We want to give you a little gift. So if you haven't taken us up on this before, we like to always feature this. It never fails. It always works. And if you haven't refreshed your lead bin in a while and got clear and cleaned out the clutter and looked at what's good, take us up on this. I guarantee you 50 leads minimum by doing this exercise, guaranteed. And if you don't get it, let me know, because I have not had that once happen. But text the send to 973-310-2803, and you'll get an instant download to get this free PDF guide. It's an exercise, takes you 30 to 45 minutes to do. Might be the best 30 to 40 minutes you've done on your business in probably the last 2 to 3 weeks. So take us up on that. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Ascend Business Show.
Good selling, everybody.